Let's dig deeper into what makes Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher so disturbing. The narrator arrives at the estate to find his childhood friend in terrible condition. Roderick Usher is ghostly pale, his skin almost translucent. His eyes are too large, too bright. He can barely tolerate light or sound, and his skin is so sensitive even soft fabrics cause him agony. His twin sister Madeline is even worse. She's wasting away, sleepwalking through the mansion's corridors like she's already half dead. The house mirrors their deterioration. The giant crack splits the structure from roofline to foundation. Fungus creeps across the stones. The rooms are suffocating, airless, as if the building itself is holding its breath. Then Madeline succumbs to her illness, or at least that's what Roderick thinks. Panicked and desperate, he seals her body in the family vault beneath the estate. But days later, during a violent storm, terrible sounds echo up from below. Scratching at stone, the scrape of fingernails on metal. Madeline wasn't actually dead. Roderick had buried his sister alive. She emerges from the crypt, blood covering her white gown, and falls upon her brother. The scene from Fall of the House of Usher where she does that is so scary and also kind of weirdly beautiful. In case you guys didn't know, I am also Mike Flanagan's literal biggest fan. So, it's crazy. They die together as the crack finally splits the mansion in two, and the entire structure sinks into the black water below. And Poe gives us a clue about what's poisoning this family: opium. When the narrator first sees the House of Usher, Poe describes his reaction like this. I looked upon the scene before me, upon the mere house, and the simple landscape features of the domain. Upon the bleak walls, upon the vacant eye-like windows, upon a few rank sedges, and upon a few white trunks of decaying trees, with an utter depression of soul which I can compare to no earthly sensation more properly than to the after-dream of the reveler upon opium. Basically, he's saying it's like the moment when the drug wears off and the euphoria crashes into reality. When everything that seemed beautiful and transcendent before suddenly seems hollow and suffocating. Because that's what opium does. It gives you a warm, floating sensation where nothing hurts and everything feels possible. But when it wears off, the crash is brutal. Depression, anxiety, physical pain that feels worse than before you took the drug. And if you keep using it, your body becomes addicted. You need more and more just to feel normal. Without it, you get violently sick. Sweating, shaking, vomiting, muscle pain. It's a trap that's nearly impossible to escape. Opium kills, sometimes quickly from overdose, sometimes slowly as addiction destroys the body over years. And that's what happened to the Ushers. Later in the story, Poe describes Roderick's strange way of speaking, that manic energy that cycles between intense excitement and complete collapse. He compares it to the irreclaimable eater of opium during the periods of his most intense excitement. Now, on the surface, these might seem like just atmospheric details. Poe loved mood-setting, carefully chosen words that made you feel the creeping dread of his stories. But here's the thing about opium in the 19th century. It wasn't just some exotic drug that Poe was using for Gothic flavor. Opium was everywhere. In Poe's time, you could buy opium at any pharmacy. It was prescribed for everything from headaches to anxiety to menstrual cramps to women troubles, which was basically code for anything doctors didn't understand about women's bodies. It was in cough syrup. It was in teething medication for babies. People simply didn't think of it as a dangerous drug. They thought of it as medicine. And of course, people got addicted. Horribly, devastatingly addicted. But addiction wasn't understood the way we understand it now. If somebody couldn't stop taking their medicine, well, that was just a moral failing, a weakness of character. The idea that the medicine itself might be the problem, that was rarely considered. And the companies that manufactured these opium-laced medications made fortunes. They marketed them as miracle cures. They put them in pretty bottles with reassuring labels. They convinced an entire society that opium was safe, beneficial, and even necessary for good health. Sound familiar? Because this is the exact playbook that would be used 150 years later by Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family with OxyContin. Fast forward to 2023. Let's get back to Mike Flanagan's version of the story for a minute. Making the Ushers big pharma execs wasn't just about updating the setting. It was about drawing a direct parallel. Poe understood how families built fortunes on human suffering in the 1800s. Flanagan wanted to show that we're still doing it today. And the latest chapter in that story, the opioid crisis. See, the Sackler family built their fortune on OxyContin, which is a drug that essentially synthetically recreates the effects of opium. The Sacklers owned Purdue Pharma, which manufactured and aggressively marketed this safe, non-addictive painkiller throughout the 1990s and 2000s. They paid doctors to prescribe it and lied about its addictive potential. They created a marketing campaign that convinced an entire medical system that undertreating pain was the real crisis and that opioids were the solution. People inevitably got addicted. OxyContin is basically heroin in a pill. And Purdue Pharma's response? Blame the patients. They were drug seekers, addicts, people with character flaws who abused their medications. This lie killed hundreds of thousands of people. The opioid crisis has claimed more American lives than the Vietnam War, more than car accidents, more than gun violence. And the Sacklers made billions of dollars from it. To Mike Flanagan, it was the ultimate modern parallel to the Usher family. And he didn't shy away from his intentions. The show opens with all 6 of Roderick Usher's children already dead. And here's where Flanagan gets really clever. Each episode is named after a different Poe work, and each death is inspired by that story. The Mask of the Red Death, the young son, Prospero, throws a decadent party that ends in horrific carnage. Prospero is an Easter egg for the Edgar Allan Poe nerds listening. Are you an Edgar Allan Poe nerd? What's your favorite story? Let me know in the comments. And also, why is it Telltale Heart? And then there's the murders in Rue Morgue. One child meets a brutal end involving a chimpanzee who was all drugged with Ligadone because they were testing them on chimps. The Black Cat. Another is driven to madness by a mysterious feline. The Telltale Heart, the Pit and the Pendulum, the Gold Bug. Each episode weaves a different Poe tale into the Usher family's downfall. It's gruesome, gothic, and absolutely a commentary on generational wealth built on human suffering. Because while Roderick's children party in their penthouses and vacation homes, hundreds of thousands of Americans are dying from opioid addiction. The show doesn't let you forget that for 1 second. And just like that, Poe's 170-year-old Gothic ghost story becomes a searing indictment of modern American capitalism. In Flanagan's adaptation, the Usher family faces supernatural retribution for their sins. It's cathartic, satisfying, and even feels like justice. But it's also a fantasy. Because in real life, the Sacklers are still rich, extremely rich. Purdue Pharma made over $35 billion from OxyContin. The Sackler family personally pocketed $10 billion of that. Purdue Pharma did eventually plead guilty to federal criminal charges for misleading doctors and patients about OxyContin's risks. But the only thing the company and the Sacklers lost was money, about 7.5 of the $35 billion they made. That's about 21 cents for every dollar. And the Sackler family's current net worth still estimated at nearly $11 billion as of 2024. They gave up ownership of Purdue Pharma. They can't sell opiates in the United States anymore, but they're still billionaires. Most of them will never see the inside of a courtroom, let alone a jail cell. Many feel that in the end, they got away with it. Edgar Allan Poe understood something that we're still grappling with today, that some patterns never change, that the same cycles of greed and suffering repeat themselves, generation after generation, just wearing different masks. Poe spent his whole life trying to expose these patterns. And in the end, some think that he paid the ultimate price for it. If you're brave enough, subscribe now. Just search for @Crimehouse Studios on YouTube. And remember, reality is the real horror.